CS50A Web Development 1, Class 7. This week we're going to be focusing on using web fonts. Now, up until just a few years ago, you were pretty much stuck with a set of 6 fonts, 3 serif and 3 sans serif fonts. The serif fonts are the ones with the little decorations on the end, and the sans serifs have no decorations, sans meaning not in or no in French. So no serifs and serifs. And you would usually have to use either Georgia and Times New Roman on the serif side or Helvetica and Arial on the sans serif side. Up until a few years ago, you would be stuck with just those font families. Well, since then, web fonts have pretty much taken over the use of typography on web pages, and it gives developers a much richer experience in terms of sharing and creating their typography. That being said, there are 2 methods we're going to explore the technical aspects of in terms of how to use web fonts on a web page. So let's take a look at that now. So we're on the Class 7 preparing for the midterm project assignment page. And as you see here, this week you will be building out your behavior HTML page, and in addition you're going to add additional CSS rules to the already established external CSS file that you created last week. Now, as you can see as I scroll further down the page, we're going to be making sure that we add at least 2 embedded web fonts with CSS at font face. That's the rule that we're going to be using in our style sheet. And we're going to use these fonts to style elements on all 3 pages in this week's draft. Now, this is one approach that we're going to be using, but I'm going to show you a second approach as well in terms of embedding or connecting web fonts to your web page. So I'm going to click the Next button here, and that's going to take me to the assignment page with the specific instructions how to develop this week's page. And you'll see, aside from the fact that you're going to be creating at least 6 new custom CSS rules using font family with 2 embedded web fonts, you'll see there are some links down here to content resources. And I'm going to click on 2 of these, which are going to open in new tabs, and we're going to explore 2 different methods to place some web fonts, and we're going to explore 2 different methods by which I can get my web pages access to web fonts. So there's my link to fonts.google, and here's my link to Font Squirrel. Well, let's start with Font Squirrel first, and you'll notice when you get to the Font Squirrel page there are an abundance of free fonts. Now, you'll want to notice where it says download OTF, OTF standing for Open Type Font. When it says off-site, it can get a little bit more complicated. It's not like you can't get the fonts from that location, but if you just download where it says download OTF, those are a little easier to work with in terms of just the process of learning how to do this. So I'm going to scroll down to where we see this Rubik font. This is an example of a sans serif font, and if I want to download this TTF, that stands for True Type Font, I'll click right over here, and that file has downloaded. Now I'm going to open up that folder, and you'll see a variety of fonts that I have over here. And basically what I want to do now is I want to take whichever one of these I want to use on my website. Like maybe I'll just use Rubik Regular. Okay, so I see that's in this folder, and I'll just drag this specific font over to my desktop. And now that it's on my desktop, I'm going to go back to Font Squirrel. And even though I've downloaded that font, I still haven't prepared it for my website. So I have to go to the Font Squirrel generator. Once I'm on the Font Squirrel generator, I'm going to click Upload Font, and on my desktop we should see our Rubik Regular True Type Font. I'll click on Open. I'll click Yes, the font I'm uploading is legally eligible for web embedding. And now the web font generator is going to take that TrueType font and make it available as a web font. As you can see, that's happened. Now I'm going to download the kit. I click on that link. And once that kit is downloaded, I'll unpack it. And you'll notice I have Rubik Regular Web Font TTF, which is the original one, but now I also have Rubik Regular Web Font.woof, Rubik Regular Web Font.woof2, and my style sheet. Let's take a look at those three elements. When I open up my style sheet, you'll see that it has a style sheet. It tells us that it's generated by Font Squirrel, and it's using the @font_face rule, and inside of my declaration block, it's using the font family property and applying the Rubik regular value to that property. And then it says source. It's basically saying, what's the source of this new font family that you're using? And the source is a URL, right? It has to go someplace. And it's looking for the WOFF2 and the WOFF web font that we just generated. Now, as you can see, this entire block is essential for us to use. So I'm going to copy this for right now. And then I'm just going to minimize this window. And then I'm going to go over to my website where I have my Module 7. I open up my Module 7, and you can see here's my Module 7. I've got my assets in the Assets folder. I've got my styles in my Styles folder. I've got my HTML page here, and I've created a new folder called Fonts. Now, if I open that up, you will see I've got a bunch of web fonts on there, but not the Rubik one that I just downloaded. I'll put that in that Fonts folder in a minute. But in the meantime, what I want to show you is that in my default style sheet, I can go up to the top of my style sheet and I can simply copy and paste that code in there. Font face is the tool that I want to use, and the font family is the property that I'm assigning the value Rubik regular to. And then my style sheet says you'll find the source of this file in you'll find the source of this, and the name of the source is Rubik Regular Web Font. But it doesn't point me to my font folder. So since this style sheet is in the Styles folder, this style sheet has to go to the parent, which means go up one directory, and then go into the font folder, which is where I'm going to be placing the Rubik regular files. So I'm going to go right in here where it says source URL, and after that single quote, I'm going to say .. meaning go to the parent directory, and then fonts /. So now it's looking for regular web font.wof2 in that location. I'll just copy that and go down here and place it there as well. And now both of these fonts, once they're in that font folder, this style sheet will be able to find those fonts, and anytime I use the Rubik regular font family in any of my rules, it will be able to find that font. So my next step is I have to get those fonts and I have to place them into this font folder. And I'm going to do that by going through my Explorer. I'm going to open up my Module 7 folder, and I'm going to open up my downloaded fonts folder, which is on my desktop, and I'm going to select both of these fonts and I'm going to place them in the fonts folder. So now those fonts are available for the style sheet to point to. If I open up this folder, we'll now see in here, let's hit the refresh button somewhere. So now that I've refreshed my folder, we see there's Rubik Regular Web Font and Rubik Regular Web Font Woof and Woof2. Now the reason why we have those two Woof files is that different browsers need to have each of those files available for them. So that being the case, what we need to do now is see where we might use Rubic Regular. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple of things that are in here, I'm going to take them out, and we're going to explore how to use the font that we just set properly up for our process. So now I'm going to look down my page here, and I'll see I have an H1, H2 rule that is currently using this font family called Alex. And there's some additional fonts that will be the fonts that will fill in for Alex if for some reason it's not available. These are our standard fonts that are on everybody's machine. Now, Alex is a sans serif font, and so is Rubic, but let's take a look at what Alex looks like and then see what happens when we change the H1, H2 font family from Alex to Rubic. So we're going to go, let's make sure we have this index page selected. We'll go File, Live Preview, and we'll see it says the Arctic Fox. It looks pretty plain. Now we're going to minimize that. We're going to go down over here where it says Font Family Alex, and we're going to compare that to right up here. It says Rubic Regular. This is the font family name that we want to use. So I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to go down to here where it says Font Family Alex, and I'm going to replace that with Rubic Regular. I'll go File, Save All. And now when I open up this browser window, and I'll just hit refresh because I don't like that bar around it, you see that is the Rubic Regular font family. So that's the method of downloading your font, creating your own generated font files, placing them in the proper folder, linking everything properly. All of those steps have to be accomplished to get the web font to work according to the requirements on our assignment. Now, since you're supposed to have 6 rules that are related to font family, you'll probably need to use that font family in other places, like maybe inside of a paragraph or inside of a list item, different things like that. But that's up to you in terms of how you're going to employ the use of the web font. Now let's take a look at how we can accomplish something very similarly by using Google Web Fonts. So earlier we clicked on this link here and it takes us to the Google Fonts page. Now, utilizing Google Web Fonts in many respects is a lot easier. Let's take a look. I've decided I like this Montserrat font, so I'm going to click this plus sign, and it says, I had clicked another one, but this one says 2 families selected. Now down over here, you'll see I've got the Montserrat and this Charmant Man. I'm going to get rid of this one, and you'll see the code right here for embedding is simply a link that would go on my HTML page. So I'm going to select this link, and I'm just going to copy it. And I'm not going to paste it yet, but I will in just a moment. We're going to go back to my web page after we notice that here where it says font family, it uses the word Montserrat and sans serif. So we'll just copy this as well, and I'll paste it into my clipboard off screen. Now I'm going to go back to my class 7 module, and we'll see that for my paragraphs right now I'm just using Helvetica Arial Sans Serif. When I view my page, we see there's my paragraph text, Helvetica. Very readable, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if I wanted to get things going a little more interesting, what I would do is I would go into my brackets program, and on my HTML page itself, I would take that link that I copied earlier, and I would put that inside of the head tag. And it is using the font family Montserrat. What I'd have to do now is I'd have to then decide in my style sheet which element would be using the Montserrat font family. So I'm going to say, you know what, we're going to use that Montserrat font family for our paragraph. So I'll just paste that code over here, font family, Montserrat, and if it doesn't find Montserrat, just use the generic sans serif that applies to all computers. With that being done, I can go File, Save, and now when I view that page, you'll notice my font family for my paragraph has changed. That blue line around it is because that paragraph tag was selected inside of brackets. Now that that's gone, we can see this is a very readable font family to use for a paragraph on a web page. And I like the clean look of it. I think it looks very elegant. So I'm going to keep that font family. And all I had to do with Google is give a link in the HTML page and then choose which element is going to use that font family. Now the only tricky part of this is if you have 4 web pages for your midterm project, this link would have to be on all 4 of your web pages. So those are the 2 methods that you're going to be exploring for Class 7 to place web fonts in your website.